when dealing with circles in terms of area, you have to be really creative. And a lot of times you're going to come across particular types of questions. And here's one question that they love to ask in a lot of times. Here I have a circle, and my circle has a radius of 10 inches. And it's in yellow because I want us to know this is the entire circle that I have here in yellow, right? And it's 10 inches. So I can find out the area of this entire circle here, right? The area is equal to pi times r squared. It's pi times 10 squared. 10 squared is 100, so my area is pi times 100, or 100 pi in terms of pi. And of course, if I multiply, if I keep going, 100 times pi is 314 inches squared. So the area of this entire circle here is 314 inches squared, right? But let's say, for example, that I decide I want to cut a hole in this circle here. And I want to cut a hole that has a radius the size of 5 inches. Let's say I want to do that. So let's say I take this and I cut a hole in it. And now I have my circle here that has a hole in it. And now let's say they ask me, well, what's the area of the shaded region here? What's the area of the shaded region here? Well, wait a minute. This whole area of the circle was 314. But now I've cut out a chunk that's in a circle that has a radius of 5 inches. Well, how much area am I taking out of this right here? Well, let's take a look. The area is equal to pi r squared. So my area is equal to pi times 5 squared. My area is equal to pi times 25, or 25 pi in terms of pi. So let's take a look here. What is pi times 25? Let's calculate that. Well, 25 times 3.14 gives me an area of 78.5 units. So this circle here has an area of 78.5 inches squared. And I've just removed that from my circle. Well, if the area was 314 before, and I just took out a chunk that has a radius of 5 inches, well, that area is 78.5. Well, and I'm left with this. How do I find this? What do I do with these two numbers? Well, if you guess that we subtract, you're absolutely correct. I'm going to take my 314 inches that I had before, and I'm going to subtract the 78.5 of this area that I just took out of the circle. So minus 78.5, and that's going to give me 235.5. Let me double check that. 314 minus 78.5 gives me 235.5. So that means that the area of this shaded region here that's left is 235.5 inches squared. So I guess the moral of the lesson here is that when you have a circle, a big circle, and then you have a missing chunk in it, what you want to do is you want to find the area of the big one first, then find the area of the smaller one, and then since you're taking it out, subtract those two numbers, and it'll tell you what you have left. It'll tell you what you have left. And that's how you will tackle those types of questions. Now, let's get started on our assignment, which is page 695 that I've given you, numbers 3 through 8, 10 through 18. And then you're going to do page 75, numbers 6 through 13 first, and then you're going to do 1 through 5 at the top of the page. Skip these questions till the end because these are in terms of pi. I want you to get some experience, some work doing the regular questions, and then we're going to tackle these more difficult questions here. Okay? So let's get started on that. Okay, so if we take a look at number 3, they tell me that the radius is 9. Here's my formula. So my area is pi times 9 squared. 9 squared is 81, so it's 81 pi. When I distribute the 81 in the pi, the area of my circle is 254.34 inches squared. Let's take a look at number 4. Again, they give me a radius of 3.8 centimeters. They want to know the area of the entire circle. So the area is equal to pi times r squared. My radius, so my area is going to be pi times 3.8 squared. 3.8 to the second power, it means 3.8 times 3.8 is 14.44 times pi. Here it is in terms of pi. And then I just distributed them, and I've gotten my area is 45.34 centimeters squared. Number 5, it's a little tricky. You see this long line here, and then you see that 12 feet? That means that 12 is the diameter, and we need the radius. So if the diameter is 12, the radius is going to be 6. So here's my formula for my area, which you're familiar with now. Area is equal to pi r squared. R is going to be 6 squared. 6 squared is 36, so I have 36 times pi, or 36 pi. When I distribute those two, you should get 113.04. Let's move on to question numbers 6 through 8. Question number 6, they tell you that the circle has a radius of 6 feet, and that this angle here is 110. Well, the first thing you should have found is, what's the area of the whole circle, right? What's the area? What's the pi r squared of this whole circle? And I did that here ahead of time. The area of the circle is 113.04. Right? Because it's going to be 6 times 6, which is the radius squared, right? Times 3.14, which is going to give me 113.04. So the area of the entire circle is 113.04. I want this shaded section here, which is 110 degrees. So it's 110 out of 360 times 113.04, and you should have gotten 34.54. Sorry, feet squared. Number 7, the exact same thing here. I have a radius of 10 meters. That means that the area of my circle is going to be 314. That's the first thing you need to find, guys. You got to find the area using the, area is equal to pi r squared, because we're looking for a sector, right? So then I take my ratio, 70 out of 360, times the area, gives me 61.05. Number 8 was a little tricky, just a little tricky. Well, my radius is 3 inches. The first thing I should find is the area, right? So the area is pi r squared. Here's the work. 3 squared is 9. 9 times pi gives me 28.26. So the area of the whole thing is 28.26. They tell me this shaded region here is 60 degrees. Excuse me, they tell me this little angle here is 60 degrees, right? But if this angle is 60 degrees, well, how much is the rest of the shaded region? How many degrees are the rest of the shaded region? Well, a circle has 360 degrees. And here, I've cut out 60, which means that all of this is 300 degrees. So I take 300 divided by 360, and then I multiply that by the area of the circle, and that tells me that the area of all this shaded region here is 23.55 inches squared. And think about it for a second. That's a big chunk of the circle. That's most of the circle, right? Well, the whole circle is 28.26. And look at the area of the shaded region. It's 23.55, which is pretty much most of the circle as well. Okay? When we get down to questions 10, 11, and 12, they're pretty simple questions. For number 10, if you worked your way down the other questions, you should have gotten the area is 3,017.54 feet squared. For number 11, you should have gotten 0.5024, because here my radius is 0.04. Sorry, it's 0.4. So 0.4 squared is going to give me 0.16. And then when I multiply that by pi, it's going to give me 0.5024. So there's my area for number 11. For number 12, they try to get me again. This is a diameter, right? The diameter is 8 meters, which means that my radius is 4. So it's going to be, the radius is 4, so it's going to be 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. 16 times pi is 50.24 meters squared. The same thing for number 13. This is 20, so that means that's the diameter, which means that my radius is 10. So which means then that my area is going to, radius is going to be 10 squared, which is 100 times pi, so the area is 314. Notice they're not asking me for any sectors, right? All they're asking for is the area of the entire circle. So for number 13, it's 314 inches squared. Number 14, okay, now we're back to figuring out some sectors, right? Well, in order to do this, what do I need to know? I need to know the area of the whole circle. That's the first thing I should need to know. Well, the area is pi r squared. My radius is 11, so it's pi times 11 squared. 11 squared is 121 times pi, so the area is 379.94. That's of the whole circle. I want this little sector here, which is how big? 60 degrees. So it's 60 divided by 360 times the area that we got, 379.94, and I get 63.32 feet squared. So the little shaded sector here is 63.32 feet squared. Number 15, a little tricky because they give me my radius as 3.5. You could have just put that as 3.5. So it's going to be pi times 3.5 to the second power. When you take 3.5 and you square it, you're going to get 12.25, which is going to give me times pi is 38.46. And that's the area of the whole circle. And again, I can do my little ratio here, which is 80 degrees out of 360 times the area, which comes out to be 8.54 inches squared.